Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling a topic that comes up a lot in travel discussions. Maui car rentals. Are they really as, well, eye-wateringly expensive as people seem to think?
Right. It's almost like a given, isn't it? Go to Maui, expect a huge rental car bill.
We've got some really interesting material here, excerpts from a report called Why Are Car Rentals in Maui So Expensive? And our mission today is pretty clear. Dig into this info, see if that widespread belief actually, holds water.
And maybe understand what's really driving those prices.
Okay, let's jump straight in. The source gives us this snapshot from June 23rd, 2024. Looked at a week-long rental starting the next day at Kahului Airport, OGG.
Yep.
The lowest advertised price they found, $218.60.
Okay. So over $200 for the week.
Right. But here's the kicker. That was only about $3, just $3 more than the median cost across 12 other popular U.S. destinations at that same time.
Wow, okay. So not the huge outlier you might expect.
Not at all. Places like Orlando, San Diego, Maui was right there with them price-wise.
And there's more context, right, from earlier data.
Yeah, exactly. Back in February 26, 2024, the average weekly rental in Maui was $165.92.
And how'd that compare?
That was a median price for the same group of 12 places, dead center.
So based on these snapshots, at least, Maui's not consistently the most expensive. Sometimes it's just average.
Pretty much. The source actually states it quite plainly. Car rentals in Maui are no more or less expensive than car rentals anywhere else in the U.S., often right in the middle.
That really does challenge the common perception. But what about the variability? You also hear that prices swing wildly.
Ah, good point. People definitely talk about that. And the data does show a range. Over a 50-week period they tracked, the lowest was $146 for a week, the highest $447.
Okay, that's a pretty big difference, nearly $300 between the low and high end.
The median during that time was $181, average $197. So there's definitely fluctuation.
But is that fluctuation unusual compared to other places? That's the key question, I guess.
Exactly. And the source looked into that too. Compared Maui's variation over a 16-week period to others.
And?
Well, take Portland, PDX. Their weekly rentals went from $143 all the way up to $608.
Whoa. Okay, that's an even bigger range.
Yep. And Seattle, Site A, ranged from $201 to $551. Also a significant spread.
So Maui's $146.4 to $447 range, while noticeable, isn't necessarily out of line. It seems like this kind of variability might just be normal for popular destinations.
That's what the source concludes. The variability in Maui isn't particularly unusual, which brings us back to the original question.
Right. If the average price isn't that high and the variability isn't that unusual, why does everyone think Maui car rentals are so expensive and unpredictable?
Yeah, why the disconnect? The source actually offers a few ideas.
Okay, let's hear them. What are the theories?
Well, first, and this probably applies to lots of travel costs, people just tend to complain more about high prices, right? It's memorable, it's something to talk about.
Makes sense. Nobody comes back raving about the reasonably priced rental car they got. You remember the sticker shock?
Exactly. Second, they suggest most people just don't really know what rental cars cost elsewhere or how prices fluctuate normally.
Lack of context.
Right. You go to Maui during peak season, see a high price, and just assume, wow, Maui is expensive, without knowing if, say, Denver was even higher that same week.
That definitely rings true. You're focused on your own trip, your own costs.
Then there's memory bias.
How so?
We tend to remember the extremes more vividly. That time it cost a fortune, or the time you could barely even find a car available. Those stick in your mind much more than the times it was, just fine.
Oh, absolutely. The hassle factor is very memorable. That stress of, will I even get a car? Or feeling ripped off.
Totally. And the last point is about media and social media.
Sensationalism.
Kind of. Temporary shortages, maybe after a disruption or sudden price spikes, those make headlines. They get shared, talked about.
And then that temporary situation starts to feel like the permanent reality in people's minds.
Precisely. The dramatic story overshadows the everyday average. Now, beyond perception, the source also talks about a real physical challenge in Maui.
The supply side. This is really interesting.
Yeah, the Maui car rental blog section dives into this. Getting more cars onto the island isn't simple.
It's not like just driving them in from another state.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Think about it. They have to go by rail or truck to a port on the mainland,
Okay.
then loaded onto barges. That trip across the Pacific can take weeks.
Weeks.
Weeks. Then they arrive, get unloaded, processed, registered at the DMV. It's a whole long, expensive process.
Right. So if demand suddenly surges, you can't just quickly flood the market with more cars like you might maybe in LA or somewhere.
Exactly. That time lag, that logistical hurdle means shortages can be more pronounced and last longer, which can definitely push prices up temporarily.
That makes a lot of sense. It adds a layer of complexity you don't have in most mainline locations.
Uh,
Okay, so shifting slightly, did the source mention where you can typically find cheaper rentals?
it did. Useful tip for planning other trips, maybe.
Always good to know. Where are the budget-friendlier spots?
According to their findings, Miami, Orlando, and Los Angeles consistently tend to have the lowest rates among the popular spots they tracked.
Okay, Florida and LA. Noted. Good baseline info if cost is a major factor.
Definitely. Now, back to Maui specifically. For people planning a trip there, the Source's blog section had some practical tips for potentially getting better deals.
Oh yeah, what do they suggest?
Well, they mentioned their own operation offers a couple of things. One is they call them cheap used cars from their local fleet.
Okay, maybe older models, basic transport.
Possibly. A budget option, sounds like. They also say they negotiate discounts on new cars from the big rental companies: Ace, Alamo, Avis, Budget, Dollar, Enterprise, Payless, Thrifty.
So they act like a broker sometimes too.
Seems like it. They recommend booking directly on their website or calling their number, and they mention a lowest price guarantee.
So the takeaway there is maybe look beyond the big travel aggregators. Go direct or check out local Maui-specific providers.
Yeah, it suggests doing a bit more specific research might pay off. Now, just to bring things up to date a bit, the source included some recent numbers too.
Okay, what's the latest trend?
This was for rentals starting June 24th, 2024. So right after that first data point we discussed, they saw rates going up.
Why was that?
They figured it was ahead of the July 4th holiday, the start of the summer high season kicking in.
Predictable seasonal jump. What were the actual numbers?
The lowest off-airport rate, where you take a shuttle, went up about $47 to $218.76 for the week.
Okay.
And the lowest rate, right at the airport rental center, went up about $25 to $279.65.
So definitely seeing that holiday demand pressure.
Yep. And they also mentioned some slightly newer blog posts from May and April 2025, pointing to lower prices in the off-season and a drop after Easter.
So reinforcing that pattern of seasonal fluctuation.
Exactly. Oh, and one last little bit of news, apparently. No new car rental taxes are coming to Maui in 2025.
Well, that's something, I suppose. Might help keep costs from climbing even further down the line.
Maybe. So let's try and wrap this up. What's the main takeaway here about Maui car rentals?
I think the biggest thing, based on this source, is that while the perception is strong that Maui is incredibly expensive for cars,
Yeah.
the actual data often doesn't quite support that.
Right. On average, and in terms of price swings, it seems to be pretty much in line with lots of other popular U.S. spots.
Yeah, it's not consistently off the charts.
And the reasons for that strong perception seem to be, well, partly psychological, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Focusing on high prices, not having broad comparisons, remembering the bad experiences more clearly.
And the way media highlights temporary spikes.
Exactly. Plus that genuine logistical challenge of getting cars to the island, which can cause real temporary price increases that fuel the narrative.
It's a complex picture, really. Not as simple as Maui is expensive.
Not at all.
So, thinking about all this, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? How easily perceptions get shaped by anecdotes, by headlines. What other things might you assume are true about prices or trends just based on that kind of limited information?
That's a great point. It's definitely a reminder to maybe look a bit deeper, question the common wisdom sometimes.
Indeed. Well, thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.